Okay. All right. So in theory, we're now recording, which is very exciting. Cool. So I always like to begin practice with just a brief seated meditation. By always, I mean, it's kind of what the mood I'm in today. So we'll come into a seated position. Ideally, you want your knees below your hips or your hips hips above your knees. So what I do is I often sit on a block. Just tuck it under my sits bones. Gives me a little bit more elevation. Helps me get a little bit more of a posterior tilt in my pelvis, which helps give you more proper upright seated position. But if you don't have a block, you can always sit on a towel, a cat, your neighbor, whatever brings you joy. So in a seated position, maybe we'll close our eyes and start to focus on our breath. So as we focus on our breath, we just start to pay attention to where the breath moves throughout our body. So don't change your breathing patterns yet. Just notice how your breath feels. And be aware of the motion of your breath through your body as it enters through the nose or maybe the mouth. Maybe it swells your belly, maybe it raises your chest. And then as you exhale, you feel the cavity, the emptiness returning to your body. Good. Inhale and exhale. And as we take a little bit more control of our breath, start to hold the breath in for a little bit. So inhale and hold and exhale and hold. We'll do that 2 more times. Inhale and hold. Exhale and hold. Inhale through the nose and hold. And on this final exhale, exhale through the mouth. Maybe flutter your hips, flutter your lips or your hips. Good. And arrive into the space. So we'll breathe quietly to ourselves for just a moment. This is a lovely time to set your intention if you have one. If you have no intention for today, that's lovely. Just find a thought or a focus or some meaning to infuse your practice with today. Good. And the joy of having a focus is that when things are hard, you have something to come back to. So on the next inhale, we're going to raise our arms up to the sky. And check in with those shoulders. They love to talk to those ears. I say this every time, but those gossips just love to get close to each other. Your ears and shoulders have so much to say to each other. We just like to give them a little space. And on the next exhale, you're going to turn over your right shoulder to find a gentle twist. Maybe your left hand comes to your right thigh. And on the inhale, find a little bit of length all the way through the length of your spine. And as you exhale, maybe twist a little deeper. Good. Inhale 1 more time, find some length. And exhale, twist a little deeper. Inhale brings you back to center. And exhale turns you to the other side. And again, you want to find length through the spine. Because as you find length through the spine, the twist should come a little bit more naturally. What you do by creating space is you give your body room to move. Good. Inhale 1 more time. Exhale, twist a little bit deeper. Good. Inhale back to center. And exhale, hands to your knees. Good. We're going to come forward into a tabletop position. So hands under your shoulders, knees under your wrists. No, knees under your hips. Hips, lips, knees, whatever. It's all the same. So on the next inhale, you're going to bring that left leg out and back. And in this time, you're going to hold that left leg up and engage your core. So what you're doing here is you're trying to avoid dumping all of that energy into your lower back. Instead, you want to activate your core and then start raising the left leg as high as you can without sacrificing the integrity of the pose. And what that means is you want to keep that left leg straight as you raise it up, but activate the core to protect that lower back. You might come very far, you might not. Good, and then on the next exhale, you're gonna bring that left foot over to the right side of your mat. So you're gonna cross behind your right knee, left foot is straight, maybe your toes to the ground, maybe the tops of your foot. You're looking for a little bit of an opening on that left hip. And if you're here and you need a little bit more, you can look over your right shoulder to get even a little bit more opening on that left side body and the left hips. Good, and then inhale back to center and set it down. Then for the second side, we're gonna raise that right leg out and back. Again, activate the core to protect your lower back, and then use your glutes and hamstrings to bring that right leg up to the sky. It doesn't have to come very far, but you should be active and engaged, starting to wake up the body. And on the next exhale, bring that right foot over to the left side of your mat, maybe your toes to the ground, maybe the tops of your foot. You can look over your left shoulder if you need a little bit more. Good, and then inhale comes back to center. And set it down. For a little bit of core work, you're gonna take that left foot out and back. And then if this is enough, you can stay here, or you can raise your right arm forward, find some balance. And on your exhale, you're gonna bring knee to elbow. Inhale, open. Exhale, close. Inhale, open. Exhale, close. Inhale, open. And then on this next exhale, you're gonna bring your right arm out to the side and your left foot out to the side, almost like a wobbly airplane, if you have room. We're just gonna be here for 3, for 2, and for 1. Set it down. Nice work. Second side, brings that right leg out and back, left arm forward. And then exhale, crunch. Inhale, open. Exhale, crunch. Inhale, open. Exhale, crunch one last time. Inhale, open. And then bring that left arm off to the left, right foot off to the right into a wobbly airplane on the second side. For 3, for 2, and for 1. Set it down. Nice work. Now you're going to tuck your toes from this tabletop position. Tuck your toes and just raise your knees about an inch above the earth. I love this pose. It's a great way to warm up the core. We'll just be here for 3, for 2, and for 1. As we push back into a downward facing dog, we lead with the hips. So a perfectly suitable downward facing dog has your knees bent and your arm should be externally rotating. And in doing so, you're basically bringing the fronts of your elbow, basically the elbow crease, so that it's facing the front wall if possible. And then once you're here, so those shoulders should be going back and down. So they love to gossip with the ears, remember, but they don't actually belong there. And then once you're here with bent knees, maybe straighten your legs to find a slightly deeper expression of the pose. And as you sit in downward facing dog, wondering what the next pose is going to be, just remember that yoga is a mindful practice, focusing on the here and now, rather than the distant future or the distant past. Like what the next pose is, or where we just came from. You're going to inhale and raise that left foot up to the sky. Exhale brings that left foot forward, placing the left foot between your hands and dropping your right knee to the earth. Untucking your right toes, we're going to come into Anjaneyasana, or low crescent lunge, with your left foot forward. We'll be here for just a few moments, but you will really want to breathe into the parts of your body that are tight. And so for me, I have a lot of tightness here in my psoas, which is the big muscle that runs across the front of your hips. And if you're here, you might raise your arms to the sky, maybe find a gentle back bend. And if you feel unbalanced, remember that it's the strength of your legs squeezing together that gives you stability in this pose. Good. Now, on the exhale, you're going to drop that right arm down beside you, almost as though you were setting it on a block, an imaginary block that gives you real stability. And then open that left side body just a little, so you're leaning over to the right side, and find maybe a little bit of a gentle stretch. Good. And then inhale brings your arms back up. And then exhale, plant your palms either side of your left foot, tuck your right toes, and then push back into downward facing dog. Now, what I'm not going to tell you to do is to come forward into a plank, go down into chaturanga, come up into an up dog, and go back into a down dog. Just know that this option is always available to you. And if you fall a few seconds behind, that's okay. It's actually not a race to the end of practice. Good. And on the next inhale, you're going to raise your right leg up. And then exhale brings that right foot between your feet, left knee to the earth, untucking your left foot, and coming into Anjaneyasana on the second side. Good. Maybe your arms come up, maybe you find a gentle back bend. And then your left arm is coming down as though it was resting on an imaginary block. You're just going to open the right side body as you lean over to the left a little bit. So you're putting some weight on that imaginary block. Good. Inhale brings you back up to center. And exhale, plant the palms, untuck your left toes, tuck your left toes, and make your way at your own pace back to downward facing dog. And if you're sitting in your dog for just a moment, check in with your wrists and their knuckles, and make sure that the weight is distributed across the knuckles of your fingers, rather than dumping all of the weight and energy of your upper body into the heel of your hand. And the way you do that is you do that by grabbing the earth, activating and engaging all of your fingers as though you were trying to hold the world's biggest water polo ball, the world itself. Good. On the next inhale, you're going to raise your left foot up and back. And then exhale, open your hips out to the side in a three-legged dog with scorpion tail or fire hydrant pose. Breathe into the left side body here. And exhale brings that left foot forward between your hands. This time we're coming into a warrior two. So what you're going to do is you're going to spin that right heel back and down so that the right heel comes to root to the earth. And then using the strength of the right leg, use that to bring yourself all the way up into a warrior two. In a warrior two, your hips are pointed off to the side. Your left knee is above your left ankle and your left foot is pointing forward. And you're using the support and strength of the right leg to come further and deeper into the pose. Some people think that your left leg is doing all the work here, but that's just not true. Good. Inhale, flips that left hand up toward the sky, and you'll come into a peaceful warrior. And exhale brings you forward into an extended side angle pose. So bring your left arm, left elbow to your left knee. Good. And we're trying to find length here from the right fingertips all the way to your right toes. And then once you've found length, you want to use that left elbow pushing against the left knee, the energy of that connection, to open your heart to the sky. Good. Inhale brings you back up to warrior two. And then exhale straightens that left foot. And as though your best friend was pulling your left wrist as far forward as you can, we're going to come into Trikonasana, or triangle pose. And then once you've come as far forward as you can, your best friend's going to let go of your wrist and let you put your left hand either on the ground or on your shin. And then you'll open the right arm to the sky. And in this pose, you should feel so supported by your back muscles. It should almost feel like you're laying back against a wall. Good. Inhale brings you back up to warrior two. And then we'll windmill our arms to the ground, untuck or tuck the right toes, and push back into a plank. And from a plank, you can either do chaturanga, up dog, down dog, or just come meet me in down dog. You might feel a little asymmetrical. It turns out that's completely okay. Good. Inhale brings that right leg up and back. And exhale brings that right foot forward between your hands, spinning your left ankle to the ground this time. And using the strength and stability from that left foot, open up into warrior two on the second side. Flip your right palm so the palm faces the sky, and then come back into a peaceful warrior. And exhale brings your right arm to your right knee. Left arm forward and up to an extended side angle on the second side. And again, use that active connection between your right elbow and your right knee to open your heart to the sky. Good. Inhale brings you back up to a warrior two. And then inhale straightens the right foot. Sass your hips as your best friend pulls you forward as far as he or she can. And then when you've reached the extent of this pose, set your right arm down, maybe to rest on your shin, a block, the floor, and open your heart to the sky in Trikonasana, or triangle pose on the second side. And as you settle into the pose, maybe find a slightly deeper expression to the pose. Take a few breaths, and then just adjust. And notice how that changes the sensation of the pose. Good. Inhale brings you back up to warrior two. And exhale windmills the arms to the earth. And however the world calls to you, we'll push back into a downward facing dog. Good. We're going to walk forward into a forward fold. So just one foot in front of the other. Coming to a forward fold, close to the top of your mat. And we're just going to take a moment here. Let gravity do the work as you forward fold over your legs. And notice how the four corners of your feet root into the earth to give you stability. Good. On the inhale, flatten your back. Say Ardha. Oh, I totally forgot the Sanskrit name for this. A half forward fold. And then exhale, forward fold. Good. Inhale brings you all the way up. And then hands to your heart in a pose we call Samastiti. And I'm just going to adjust the camera real quick. Samastiti, hands in prayer, feet underneath your hips. Good. And then we're going to shift the focus. We're going to shift all of the weight into your left foot first. So Garudasana is where we're going, or eagle pose, although Garuda is not an eagle. So you're going to bring all of your weight into your left foot as your right foot comes up. Your right foot is going to cross over your left. Maybe you bend the left knee. Maybe you double wrap. Maybe you don't. Whew. Good. And so your legs, so you might be in a slightly seated position. Garudasana, right leg crossed over left. And then, if you're feeling super adventurous, your right arm is going to go under your left arm, and you're going to fold the arms together. Maybe you just grab opposing shoulders. That's okay. If you're feeling particularly bendy and flexible, maybe the arms come together to Garudasana. And then if you can't get enough of this pose, you can even start to forward fold. Whew. Or maybe not today. Remember, it's just a practice. Good. And then inhale, unwrap your arms, unwrap your legs, place your feet on the earth, and just shake it out. And remember, this is as good a time as any to remind you all that this is a judgment-free class. I give no judgment, and all I ask is no judgment in return. All right, Garudasana, second side. So we're going to shift all of the weight this time into your right leg. And then you're going to cross your left leg over your right. Maybe double fold if that's in your practice, maybe not. This is my tighter side, believe it or not. And then your left arm is going to come under your right. And again, grabbing opposite shoulders is totally okay here. If you want a slightly deeper expression, maybe you bring your hands palms to meet to each other. And then in this position, it's really easy for those pesky ears to go sneak up on your shoulders, but you still want to keep your shoulders back and down. And then maybe you forward fold. Maybe not. And once you have lost your balance completely, you can unwrap your arms, unwrap your legs, and come into Tadasana. Ta-da! Hands, palms facing forward, and just shake it out. Good. And we're going to come back to the front of our mats if you're not there already. And inhale brings your arms up to the sky. And exhale, swan dive down to the mat. Inhale brings you up to a flat back. And then exhale, we're coming into a plank position, so you can hop, jump, step, walk, handstand, or do any of a number of variations to come into plank. Very nice. And then if you're in plank, we'll come forward into Chaturanga. Inhale to an upward facing dog. And come on back to a downward facing dog. Whew, that was fun. Inhale brings that left foot up and back. And exhale, this time you're going to bring your left foot to the outside edge of the left side of your mat. So we're coming into lizard pose. I'm just going to adjust the camera one more time as we leave our standing poses for the day. Good, so lizard pose has your left foot on the outside edge of the mat. Maybe you have your hands on the earth. Maybe you have your knee down. Maybe you have your toes tucked or untucked. We're going to bring our knees down in just a moment, but if you're in lizard pose, we're going to stay here first for a few breaths. And if you like to go deeper, you can always come on down to your elbows. Good. So on the inhale, you're going to come back up onto your hands. Drop your right knee to the earth. And then you're going to bring your left arm open and back. And then once it's here, you're going to see if bringing that right knee, bending the right knee to grab the right foot with your left hand is accessible. So if this is uncomfortable on your knee, a towel is a lovely idea. Extra padding, you can fold your mat. This is called corkscrew pose, and it's a lovely quad opener. And you're using the energy, the connective energy of your hand to your foot to find a little bit more of an opening on the front half of your right leg as you open up the left hip. Good. On the next inhale, let go of your foot. Bring your head back to the inside edge of your left foot. Tuck your toes, and let's push back up into a three-legged dog. The left foot all the way up and back, and then set it down. Good. Inhale brings that right foot up and back. And exhale, lizard pose on the second side. So you can make lizard pose easier or harder, but the goal here isn't to go to the limit of your ability. The goal is to find a sensation and learn to be comfortable in that discomfort and sensation. So you might bring your left knee to the earth. You might bring your elbows to the earth. You might tuck your toes and straighten that left foot. Just find what works for you, what is safe and accessible in your body. Good. And if you're on your elbows, we'll come back to your hands. Drop that left knee to the earth. And again, to come into corkscrew on the second side, you're just going to take that right arm up and back. And then when you're here, you'll bring that left foot up to meet the right arm, right hand, and come into corkscrew pose on the second side. Good. And then when you're ready, let go of that left foot. Bring your right arm back, forward and down, and we'll push back into downward facing dog. You should feel pretty loose right about now, hopefully. So on the next exhale, you're just going to bring your left foot forward, and we're going to open up to the side for a wide-legged forward fold. So wide-legged forward fold, you want your toes pointed slightly inwards, and you don't want your legs so far outside or so far apart that you lose control of the position. And then with a flat back, we're going to forward fold. Good. And then to come into archer's pose, I think it's Ardha Dhanurasana, but I'm probably wrong. You're going to bend your right knee and basically come into a squat position on the right leg. Heel to the earth if you can. It's okay if the heel comes up. And then you're going to open your left foot so that your toes point to the sky. And then we're going to sit in this pose for a few breaths. But if you want to go a little bit deeper, you can always bring that right arm forward to the right knee and try and come into a bound variation. Oh, that's not for me today, so I'm just going to stay here. You know, they say an advanced yogi is not the yogi who can hold the most advanced poses. It's the yogi who knows when the most advanced version of the pose is not right for their body today. Good, and then without raising our hips too high, we're gonna try and come into the same pose on the second side. So your hips can come as high as you need them to. Oh, mine need to come pretty high up. Basically trying to come to the second side and then raising your right heel, your right toes to the sky this time. Maybe coming into the bound variation, maybe not. So one of my favorite humans in the world, his name is Hafþór Julius Bjornsson, just set the world record in deadlifts. He lifted 1,104 pounds, 1,104 pounds, 0.52, 1,104.52 pounds.
How much is it in kilos?
A lot. It's about half a ton. Good, and then we're gonna come back up to center into a forward fold. So you're gonna straighten that left leg, bring the right toes forward, and come into a forward, wide-legged forward fold. Anyway, so what's interesting is to see Hafþór do this pose, because one of my favorite teachings in yoga is to let go of the things that don't serve you. And I don't think I will ever need to deadlift 1,104 pounds. I don't know, maybe I will someday and I'll regret these words, but learning to let go of that which does not serve you means that I can be happy for him without being jealous. So you're gonna bring your hands to your hips, and with a flat back, we're gonna come all the way up. Good. And then to come into horse pose, just to do something a little bit different. So you're gonna move so that your heels come inside, bend your knees, bring your hands to the tops of your legs, and use the weight of shift the weight into your arms and out of your hips. Let's see if I can, oh, that was weird. Turn to the side, you can see we're basically pushing our weight into opening our legs. Now, you're gonna flip your right hand so that your fingers come inside the leg, and just drop your right shoulder down. And notice I don't know, at least for you, at least for me, I get a lot of opening here on the inside of my right leg. Inhale back to center. And then exhale second side, dropping your left shoulder in. Inhale back to center. Good. So if you're into Kapalabhati yoga, which is a style of breathing, you could always do Kapalabhati in this position. I find it exhausting, really energizing, but we're not going to do that today. So now we're going to straighten our legs. Whew, come into star pose. Star pose is just a wide-legged pose, arms to the sky. Oh, so grateful for our day and time together here. And then you're going to bring that left foot forward and come into a forward fold at the top of your mat. Oh, that feels good. Okay. So I think I'm ready for some seated poses. How about you? But before we go there, we're going to do my favorite transition to seated pose ever. So you're going to come all the way up to a standing pose, arms to the sky. And then bend your knees and settle down into a chair pose. In chair pose, you really want your knees to touch, your toes to touch, and you're using the strength of your knees squeezing together to hollow your belly and create a little bit of space. And then come a little deeper. Maybe a little deeper, maybe a little deeper. And at the point where your heels start to come off the ground, you're suddenly in a toe stand. And if you're not here, if you can't balance here, that's okay. This is a judgment-free class after all. No refunds. And then Bring your knees up to your chest as you bring your hips to the earth. And land. And we'll start in boat. So boat pose. Let me think. Boat pose. I'm going to come out into the light a little. The boat pose, you're basically sitting on your sits bones. And your knees might be straight, they might be bent. The goal here is for your upper body to open up in front of you. So the most important thing to do here is not to collapse into your chest. Open your heart to the sky, even if that means that your legs don't come quite as high. Maybe your arms come under your hamstrings. And in fact, this is a fantastic pose, even if you're an advanced yogi, because the action of trying to pull your legs apart with your hands and squeezing your knees together with your legs activates and engages the core for a slightly deeper and more full expression of the pose. Good. And then you might lower down to half boat, just coming so that your heels hover about an inch above the earth. You could come back up into a boat from here, or you could say, screw that, and put your legs down to the earth. And if you did that, like me, next we're going to come into a forward fold and appreciate the restorative effects that having solid grounding gives to your body. Good. We're going to sit back up into a staff pose. So staff pose, you just have your straight back. And then I want to do, oh yeah, we have time for this. Okay, so Janu Shirshasana. So from staff pose, first off, put your hands on the ground on either side of your hips. Try and pick your hips up and then pull your hips back just a little bit. And notice how that changes your position. So you might sit a little bit higher on your sits bones. You come off of the tailbone a little bit. Then what we're going to do is bring that right leg in. So the right leg in so that the right foot is on the inside of the left thigh. And then we're going to start by raising our arms to the sky. Twist your body so that your body is facing your left toes, and then come into a forward fold over the left leg. Good. Now you can stay here, or to get a little bit more of a twist in this lovely pose, you can come up, twist your body over your right knee, and then bring the left elbow inside of the left thigh. Maybe bringing the right arm overhead, reaching for those left toes. In an adventure that may feel helplessly unreachable at the time, but with a little practice, you might get there someday. Good, this is a lovely side body opener. Good, and then inhale back up, and then exhale, arms down to the side, and then we'll go for the second side. So you're gonna bring your left foot in and straighten your right foot out. I'm just gonna turn so that I'm not giving my back to the camera, just this once. Inhale brings your arms up, twist over that right foot, and then exhale, forward fold over the right leg. And in any forward fold, it's interesting to evaluate the difference between trying to bring your nose to your knee versus trying to bring your heart to your toes. Good. Inhale brings you up. Twist over that left knee. And then you're going to inhale, bring your arms up, and then bring that right arm inside the right leg. And maybe lift your left arm, almost as though they were trying to grab those toes. And in this position, you're really using, just like we did with extended side angle, you're using the connection between your right knee and your right elbow to open your heart to the sky. It's more important that your heart opens to the sky than if your left hand ever gets to your right feet. It turns out the left hand to the right feet just, you know, if you're a yoga journal model, that's what you need to do. But they already said no to me 3 times, so I don't need that drama in my life. And so I'll just do the pose correct from now on. Good. Inhale brings you up. And then exhale. We're going to bring our feet together in cobbler's pose. And just take a moment here. So we're not going to forward fold quite yet. I just want you to bring your feet together. And then we'll find the sun. And then in cobbler's pose, try to push the outside edge of your feet together. So this is an active pose where you're really squeezing the outside edges of your feet together. And in doing so, you might find that your hips can open a little more. Good. And then from cobbler's pose with your back straight, maybe you come forward into a slight forward fold. Just remember to keep those outside edges of your feet active and engaged. Good. We're going to sit up and then come into a goofy position. I have no idea what the name of this pose is, but you're going to bring your right shin parallel to the top of your mat, and then your left shin parallel to the side of the mat. Almost like pigeon, actually. So your right leg, your right foot is active and engaged to protect your right knee, and your right shin is parallel to the front of the mat. Your left quads are parallel to your right shin, and your left shin is parallel to the side of the mat. So it's all 90 degrees. And we're just going to sit here for a few breaths and enjoy the discomfort of this pose. So when I learned this pose, the only instruction I got was that it's really good to sit in this pose for about 30 seconds. It's really bad to sit in this pose for 5 minutes. And the recommendation was not to spend too much time in here every day, but it helps to realign your hips just a little. Good. And then on the next inhale, we're just going to come to the second side. So maybe roll onto your right hip as you swing your left foot forward. And then come so that your left shin is parallel to the top of your mat, and your right shin is parallel to the side of the mat. And I say sit in discomfort, but of course, if it's painful, please, please come out of any pose that you're in. Good. And then roll forward, cross your legs into a seated position, and take a moment. So we're going to come onto our backs next, but just take a moment here and notice what's changed. Maybe nothing, maybe something. Okay, so when we roll onto our backs, we're going to do figure 4 pose on our backs. So hopefully I can figure out the right angle, right camera angle to demonstrate this, but we're going to roll onto our backs. Let me see if this just looks weird or if this actually helps explain anything. So you're going to bring your, sure, that's not weird. At least not weird enough. Okay, so you're on your backs, flat back, knees up, so your feet are on the ground. And then to come into a reclined figure 4 position, all you're going to do is you're going to take that left foot and cross it over the right knee. So if this is enough, you can stay here. If you need a little bit more, you can bring that right knee closer and maybe reach through the window of your knee, through the window of your legs to grab your knee. And maybe you bring your knee closer. And the goal here is to find a little bit of an opening on the outside of the left hip. Yeah, that's not a weird camera angle, I hope. I don't know. Box HR will tell me if it's different. Good. And if you need even more, you can always straighten that right leg to get a little bit of an opening on the outside of the right hamstring as well. But options are optional, and this doesn't actually do anything different for the hips. This is just a great hamstring opener. We've done a lot of those today. And as we've settled into this pose for just a few moments, maybe you could find a little bit more depth. Or maybe just the idea of imagining a little bit more depth is all you need today. Good. And then without changing the shape of your legs, you're going to bring your right leg to the earth, your right foot to the earth. Maybe bring your left knee closer to your right. And then you're going to fold, you're going to twist so that your right side, legs fall over to the right side of your body. Let's see. Hello. It's not weird. Maybe it is. Good. Inhale brings you back up to center. Uncross your legs and set your left foot down next to your right. Now, before we go into the second side, just try bringing your feet a little bit wider and knock your knees. This may not feel like much, but it is an incredible counterbalance to some of the hip openers that we've done today. Good. Unknock your knees, bring your feet back to being hip width apart. And then we're just going to do reclined figure 4 on the second side. So crossing your right foot over your left knee and finding that opening in your hips, maybe reaching through the window of your legs to grab your left knee. And now that we've been here a few breaths, maybe think about coming a little bit deeper. And maybe that thought is all your body needs today. So a friend of mine is a professional athlete, and something that they tell me every time we talk about getting better at our practice is that visualizing the race, the play, the scrum, or what have you, it's so critical to success. Good. And we're going to set that left foot down. Again, you're going to bring the right knee over the left knee and use this to twist over to the left side. So what's interesting is that it's not just what you do on the practice field, on the training field, that matters. It's so important that you could forego practice and still succeed if you visualize what you want and how to do it. Yeah, that story made a lot more sense in my head, but that's okay. There's always room to improve. Good. And then we're going to untwist, placing our legs on the ground, our heels slightly wider than our knees, and knocking the knees one more time. Good. And then just let those legs hang long. Now, if you have one more pose left in practice that's calling to you today, now is a lovely time to take it. So for me, that pose is Happy Baby. So for Happy Baby, you just lay flat back on the earth, bring your knees wide, reach through your legs, grab the outside edge of your heels or your feet. But maybe wheel is what's calling to you, or headstand, or plow pose, or fish pose. If you don't know what any of those poses are, that's okay. Just do what your body calls you to do today. Good, and then gently coming out of whatever pose you're in. Lay your legs long. Lay your arms to the earth, or the floor. And take this moment to let go in our final pose, corpse pose, or Shavasana. Let go of all the tension, all the stress, all that energy that we've just built in the body. And learn and sit in this peaceful pose. We'll be here for about 2 minutes. And just as you let go moments ago, slowly, slowly take a grasp, take a grip, and come back into this world. Come back into this place and bring just a little something with you. Bring some sensation into your fingers and your toes. Anchor in through your wrists and your ankles. Find stability through your elbows and knees. And integrate your shoulders and your hips and your spine as you gently roll over to one side. And then using your arm strength, maybe you push up into a seated position with your eyes closed. Maybe you bring your hands into prayer. Thank you so much for joining me in practice today. The light and love that shines through every one of you is seen, is heard, and appreciated by the light and love that is in me. Namaste. All right, I'm going to turn off recording.